I want this I want this channel to focus on seeing the world through the lens of someone who's been incarcerated before on felony charges, um, but also being educated, being a black woman, being a black feminist, and being a Christian. Um, that's why the title is called The Struggle is Real. So when I say the struggle is real, I'm not speaking just economically um, or socioeconomically about, capitalism. I'm also speaking about the struggle to re enter society, to be a black woman in America, just the struggle that you can find in anything. And to me, there's always a struggle to be found in something. And don't think that I'm being pessimistic when I say that, but it's reality. And while I don't always focus on the struggle, there are times in life when I feel like I must. And this is one of those times. So I want to share with you guys about a job I had for 3 years, working for a black owned company. And the owners knew about my past. I had gotten the job through, networking. Um, but I feel like with that, and I had heard people say that when I was incarcerated, that people treat you differently at work when they know you're a felon. They take advantage of you. They do things and expect things they wouldn't expect of, other employees. And, that was my first time incarcerated, prayerfully my first and only. So I thought the person was just, rationalizing their recidivism. However, I found out that they were right. So I worked for this black-owned company. It was owned by a black man, a black woman, and another black man. But the other black man didn't really, deal with day-to-day operations. And the CEO was a black man, and he was definitely, a narcissist. Not only was he a narcissist, though, he was a sexual predator. He still is. He still has his company. He still runs things. And I think within the first week of me being there, he asked me, what do I like in bed? And I'm just like, the person who got me the job had already warned me about him. And I thought, she's exaggerating, but seeing is believing. But when you are at the point where you're tired of doing fast food because nobody else will give you a chance, everything is still coming up on your record, you put up with stuff you wouldn't put up with had, if you didn't have a record. And I know there are people out there who think, well, don't do the crime if you can't do the time or suffer the consequences. And, I felt like I did my time. I did my probation. Um, and you want to go back into society and be treated normally, but you can't. It's like I remember so many times of him making fun of my mental health issues because he knew I had mental health issues. He wanted to know why I did what I did, the crime that I committed. And you share that thinking, that the person is gonna, I don't know, be kind to you and not try to trigger you. But this, like I said, this guy was a narcissist, and triggering was his, you know, very fun thing to do. And here I'm an educated black woman with 2 degrees, and I'm seeing what's clear sexual harassment. This man was sleeping with so many different women at the office. The people that I reported to, he was sleeping with. And he would basically try to sleep with anyone that would let him. But I had been warned, so when I came through the door and he started trying to, you know, get me in the bed, I, basically told him his reputation preceded him and I wasn't interested. And he liked me working for him because I was smarter than, no, I don't want to say smarter. I was more educated than his employees. They start off at $10 an hour, and you're not going to find anybody, with a college education willing to make $10 an hour in this day and age, unless there's an issue, like a background issue. So before that, I was working at a fast food restaurant, and I kept thinking, you have to deal with this. You just have to swallow it and deal with it. Well, swallowing and deal with it went on for 3 years until I got to a point that I just couldn't do it anymore. So I want to provide a safe space for people, for and especially for Black women who have been incarcerated, and how you reintegrate into society after that. How you deal with things. You don't want to go back, so you have to change. I know one girl that I was locked up with, and she ended up committing suicide when she got out because well, I don't know why. I didn't get to talk to her before she did it, but she had been incarcerated for so long and at such a young age that when she got out, I imagine it was probably hard to cope with the stigma of being, you know, a felon, a murderer. And no, I'm not a murderer. But it doesn't matter. Once you've been in prison and people know it, they treat you differently, which is one of the reasons I want to stay anonymous on this page, because I do have a job with good benefits and all that, and I don't want to lose it. And even though my job never asked me, has you been convicted of a felony or anything like that, when they ran a background check, I cleared it. So, or if they did ask, it was like in the last 10 years, and it had been more than 10 years. So, I want to keep my job, and it's always this shadow over you, scared that someone's going to find out, scared they're going to, look at you differently. Um, and when I was in grad school, I took a course in Black feminist theory, and it opened my eyes. It was like there was actually scholarship for the way that I felt as a Black woman. And it's like I remember before I was incarcerated, I used to look down on people who had been incarcerated. I remember in particularly going to a Bible study group, and it was a very small group in the college town where I went for grad school. And one of the girls in the group, or one of the women in the group, had been incarcerated, and she was sitting next to me, and I literally felt myself move, like the way you see white people move when you get too close to them, or you know what I mean, like the way they'll cross the street, like, oh, there's a Black person. I literally acted like that, only for me to end up going to the same prison that woman had been in and out of. So I feel like there should be a space for women like us, women who don't want to go back to prison, who want to be treated, with respect, who don't want bosses to talk crazy to us. This particular boss I had literally has called me ugly. He loved the fact that I was smart, but aesthetically, I wasn't his ideal. It's like all of his side chicks had, the same light skin, hair weave, big butt trope, the same ideal. But his common law wife is a dark skinned, short, petite Black woman. And I don't fit in between any of those. And I didn't want to fit in between any of those for him to find me attractive. But for, the owner of a company to tell you that you're ugly, or tell you, he would often call me a retarded MF. And I'm just like, I remember the day that he did that, I literally got in my car and drove home and just cried on my lunch break. And then I had to come back and keep working because I needed my job. When you don't have a lot of choices because you're a felon, you have to put up with a lot of stuff that you would never put up with. And, he's, locally famous in this city. He's very connected. So it's like you can't really go to anybody and tell them. They all know, but, it's just one of the boys. So one of the good old boys, but, a Black good old boy. So anyway, this is my first attempt to publicly speak out about my experience. There'll definitely be more to come. But I just kind of wanted to put this out there, and especially hear from people who are interested in, prison systems and the prison pipeline, and prison abolitionists, and just people who feel hopeless, but you know you can't give up, or you won't give up. Um, so thank you. And the struggle is real.